Tom Ricketts does not care if the Cubs actually win another World Series. He tell you he will, and that the things that they're doing just aren't working out. I guarantee you everything they make from that ball club is going back into that ball club, and the Ricketts just aren't doing that. I don't know where the Cubs go from here. What's up? Season 3, episode number 10 for the Shawn Mackey Show. Almost halfway through season number 3. Don't worry, we got a lot of season left for you. I want your feedback. I want you to tell me, what do you want to hear? What are you looking for when you click the button to check out my show? There's a reason behind me asking you. I don't know if I'm going to share that with you, but I just kind of want to get some insights. I want to put on a show for you. I want you to listen. I want you to comment. I want to have conversations regarding my show. I don't know where we go from here with the Cubs. Now, there is absolutely a lot of baseball left. The Cubs are currently 9-8 in June. That 10-15 mark I looked for when you first played the A's, the Giants, the Rockies, the Giants, and the Rockies. And I thought you needed to be 10-15 after having that 10-game losing streak, after 10-game win streaks for a total of 20 wins. Man, it was not looking good for these Cubs. I know all up and down Facebook, there's plenty of blame to go around. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of people that just, I don't know if they get the whole deal here. And we're going to talk a little bit about Jed Hoyer here in a few minutes and what he's done for or to this team since taking over. And I'm quick to say, on the field, Craig Counsell has some issues. Off the field, I think this goes all the way to the top of the organization. I'm going to hit you with that in a minute. But the Cubs are 9-8 in June, coming off of an incredibly terrible loss to the Blue Jays. The Chicago Cubs held a 5-0 lead walking into the top of the 7th inning. And Craig Counsell's choices on the mound proved to be less than stellar. In the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings, basically, the Cubs bullpen gave up 8 runs. The Cubs bats went silent during those innings, and they end up losing 8-6. And that was after coming off of the gigantic 16-2 win, where offensively the Cubs could do nothing wrong against the Blue Jays. And that was on Friday. So we've seen a lot of good things here in June with the Cubs. They've kind of gotten back to being a little respectable at the plate. But pitching is, I mean, you're one more injury away from completely losing this season with the talent that you're walking out there on a daily basis. I want to say Jed Hoyer doesn't know what the hell he's doing, but I think he absolutely does know what he's doing. And I think part of the reason he got the job was, Tom Ricketts said, I'm done. We got the championship. I'm making a good amount of money. I don't really want to spend a lot of money on this team. And I understand not doing that now this season, especially because I think in next episode, we're going to touch a little bit on the, potential lockout for next season, in which case, if MLB is locked out for the entire season, I'm pretty sure the Shawn Mackey Show is going to go straight to all football and life stories and the Cubs are just kind of sitting in this limbo right now. I don't know what else to call it. There is a lot of season left. They could absolutely pull this thing out. But I mean, you're talking right now, you're still 6.5 games out. You're 6.5 games out in your division, a game and a half behind St. Louis, who is doing remarkably well for what they've done in the offseason. in the wild card standings, even with your good 40-37 record, you're sitting on the outside looking in. You are now 5th in the wild card standings. So how they always like to say, if the season ended today, Cubs wouldn't even be in the playoffs. And that's the thing that I'd like to first hit on. I want to take this from the field on up to the front office. All right. And so on the field, why is Dansby Swanson continuing to be in this lineup every single day? I understand he's got that elite defense, his defensive skills. He's one of those anchors out there in the infield. He's made a few errors this season, but I don't think, I know Jed Hoyer said that, it's one of these deals where I think Craig Counsell has to keep putting him in the lineup, one, based on the contract he has, the money he has, and Jed Hoyer's philosophy that the runs that Dansby Swanson saves us from giving up overshadow any of the non-runs he can get for us at the plate. So you're basically saying, I'm willing to sacrifice one bat in the lineup for elite defense. Okay. That's understandable if the rest of your lineup is consistent and does well. But with this spotty lineup that the Cubs have that is hot one day, cold the next day, hot, cold, they can't seem to string many consistent days at the plate together. And don't even get me started. Don't say, well, you forgot about the 2 10-game winning streaks. And that was great. But what happened? You had a 10-game winning streak. Then you lost a few games, 2 or 3 here in a row. And then you went on a 10-game winning streak. And then you went on a 10-game losing streak. And you've also, between that 10-game losing streak and now where we sit in June, you've also lost another 8 or 9 games. So that to me tells me right there there's no consistency. If you would have went on a 10-game streak, lost 1 or 2, went on a 10-game streak, lost 1 or 2, went on a 10-game streak, lost 1 or 2, went on a 10-game streak, lost 1 or 2, that's more consistent than a 10-game win streak, lose 3 or 4, a 10-game win streak, lose 10 in a row, lose 12 out of 15 after that. That's where there's no consistency. And it starts with the guys in the batter's box, because you can have a great defense, but that still means if you don't hit, you're just going to lose a lot of games 1 or 2 to nothing, or 2-1, 3-2, that kind of nature. And for me, if Dansby Swanson saves you 2 runs a game, but you can't get 2 runs with him at the plate, it's kind of a wash, so to speak, kind of evens itself out. He's an older guy, so there's always this talk about, just like with Alex Bregman, there's always this talk about the clubhouse presence. That's great. You don't want cancers in your clubhouse. You want a guy who can lift up the younger guys. You want someone who can be level-headed in times of crisis. But you also need guys that can hit the fucking ball and put runners on base and get those runners homes. The Cubs are freaking dead absolute last with runners in scoring position, and 2 of their ball players are the 2 of the worst contributors. I mean, you're looking at most runners left on base this MLB season. Number 1, Ian Happ, 167. Number 2, Alex Bregman, 155. You can't have 2 guys on your roster who are the 1 and 2 guys leading in one of the worst categories you want to be the leader of. I mean, what are you going to walk out at the end of the season and had a great year? I was number 1, leaving guys on base. Woohoo! I mean, what the hell? 2 guys on your roster. I'll throw the graphic up there, courtesy of Barstool Sports. It's all right. Get that away. And yes, it seems like all I'm doing is ranting on this team because, let's face it, that's where we sit. Okay. Let's talk about some of the guys that Jed Hoyer's put on the field so we can go field on up to ownership. I'll give Jed Hoyer the steal of a lifetime with Pete Crow-Armstrong. Javi Baez was one of those guys I didn't mind seeing go, because out of, Schwarber and Bryant. Now we see what happened to Bryant. Fine. Rizzo. Um, those guys, it was a little heartbreaking to see them go. Baez, I didn't care. He was on a decline. This guy was swinging at balls that bounced 5 feet in front of the plate. Okay. And he goes to New York. We get Pete Crow-Armstrong. Pete Crow's a young cat who's looking to be a superstar. He probably has the highest average on the team currently. For the Cubs, he's putting up all-star numbers again. The way the Cubs are playing, they're going to be one of those teams where it's like, yeah, we've got to include a guy on the all-star team from the Cubs. No doubt in my mind, it's Pete Crow-Armstrong. So I'll take the Pete Crow-Armstrong, the steal, that trade there. I'll give that one to Jed Hoyer. Okay. I'll even give him Michael Busch trading. I don't even know who the Cubs traded to the Dodgers to get Michael Busch. Michael Busch has been a pretty solid ball player for the Cubs. I think if Craig Counsell would just put a fucking roster together and leave these guys in the same slots instead of up and down, up and down, up and down on the lineup, then I think they would have a lot more success. But Busch has been a pretty solid ball player for the Cubs since we picked him up. When Hoyer made that trade, I was like, who? Right? But this kid was on the fringe, and that was a good steal. So I'm going to give him Michael Busch and Pete Crow-Armstrong. Everything else, I don't think Jed Hoyer has done enough. First of all, you look at all the guys he signed with dead arms coming off Tommy John surgery. Not a lot of them have panned out. Okay. Shota, I'll give Hoyer credit for Shota in year one because Shota was dominant in year one with the Cubs. Nobody in Major League Baseball, save for a few guys, had probably seen him all that much. So he was pretty dominant for the Cubs in year one. Once the league started figuring him out, he was hopeless, lost cause. In fact, this past season, he's been with the Cubs for 3 years. The Cubs, I don't think were going to keep him around. They threw out that qualifying offer thinking that he probably wouldn't take it. And Shota explored Major League Baseball, and he was on the downside on year two. And I don't think there was much interest for him. So he takes the qualifying offer and he starts out this season pretty decently for the Cubs. It's been downhill for a while now. He's right back to his old ways. So I'll give Jed some credit for Shota for year one. 3 guys so far out of the big top names that Jed Hoyer put together. Now here's 2 guys very similar, the Dansby, Swanson, Alex Bregman. These are the big ticket items he went after. Dansby Swanson, elite defensive ball player. I'm not going to take that away from him, but at the plate, he's terrible. He had one good year, which I believe was his contract year in Atlanta. That was what prompted the Cubs to sign him for a 7-year, $177 million contract. Jed Hoyer loves his defense, so we're stuck with Dansby Swanson in the lineup every single day. And yes, yesterday, I think he had a couple of hits. I know during one of the series with the Athletics, or maybe the Giants, he had a game-tying single, and then Pete Crow walked it off. Yeah, it was against the 7-6 win, the comeback win for the against the Athletics on June 4th. But other than that, Dansby Swanson hasn't really done enough at the plate. Alex Bregman's another guy. I mean, kind of hitting like 242 or something like that this season, kind of staying respectable, but 2 guys who have a great clubhouse presence who just aren't getting it done on the field. And that's another big contract item, 5-year, $175 million. So you've essentially got 2 guys where you've got tied up 325 some odd million, maybe. That quick math, that's not working out for me. I don't think that's quite right. Let's see. Yeah, $352 million signed up to 2 guys that'll overlap for at least 2 more seasons for the Cubs. So I don't know what I don't get Jet that those were two. I was not excited at either of those trades, maybe more so for the Dansby Swanson trade a couple of years ago or the signing, because I thought, oh, Nico playing at second base. Here is that anchor level defender in the infield at short, right? But the play at the plate just is just not doing it for me. He gets a big old. And Alex Bregman, 32 years old, he's on the downward side of his career at this point. He hasn't hit and produced enough in the clutch for me. Yes, I'm a big clutch guy because, again, I said this before on last show or 2 shows ago. I mean, most of baseball, the way it's designed, there's going to be a lot of clutch moments in every single game. I mean, that runner on third. I mean, yesterday, I think the Cubs had the bases loaded with no outs and didn't score a run. That's how bad they are with runners in scoring position. So that's a big thumbs down on 2 signings there by Jed Hoyer. He's got credit for 2, maybe a half with Shota. So now it's kind of, he's at 0.5. So the 2 boos and the 2 yays kind of wash each other out. So there's a half a guy so far in 1 year of Shota. But here's the calls. Colin Ray, I think's been okay for you for the little bit you signed him for and the production he's given for you. That has been a bright spot. Okay. Matthew Boyd was a bright spot last year, but he's been on the IL most of this season, a 35-year-old dude that you're giving $15 million to for a 2-year deal, right? Let's not forget Hoyer signed Shelby Miller to a 2-year deal, with the first year being a total rehab after coming off of Tommy John, and you already had Shelby Miller in your system 2 years ago. What changed that you gave him a 2-year deal and allowed him to rehab? Just in case, in the hopes he can be a better pitcher for you when he comes off of the IL. I'm not really buying that whole deal there either. Hoyer's blueprint for his success is elite run prevention, premium defense, and deep organizational depth. That's great. You want to have the defense, but you've totally dropped the ball on anything offensively. I'll say it again. If the Cubs are sellers toward the trade deadline, I think they're going to look to unload Ian Happ. He's coming up to a contract year. And now this is, and I'll be completely honest with you here. I've been a fan of this team. I'm 58 years old, and I can remember as far back as 5 rooting for the Cubs. So 53 years. But again, people like to say when people are pissed off about the town they live in, or the people, you just move. You're not a tree. Just move. You can change. Okay, you know what? But people really get pissed off when you say, I'm about done with this fucking team that I've been following for 53 years, that you're not a true fan. Well, I'm a true damn ass fan, one, and I'm getting too old to put my old heart through all the bullshit that the Cubs pull. And if the Cubs don't trade Ian Happ at the deadline, if they're completely kind of like out of this whole deal, and if they end up giving him an extension, I am absolutely done with the Cubs, because I will believe in my heart of hearts that all Jed Hoyer is doing is being a yes man to Tom Ricketts, who basically has said, I got them their championship. The fans can kiss my ass. I'm making money hand over fist. So I'm not going to spend the money. I give 2 shits about this team being a winning ball club. He's never come out and said it, right? But that's the way I feel he's running this ball club. So I'm just going to do this quick reel here. I'm going to get you some statistics. The Cubs franchise is valued at $5.31 billion. They're a massive financial machine, and they generate hundreds of millions in revenue annually. Tom Ricketts maintains that baseball operations basically aim to break even every year. Cubs pull in a crap ton of money every year. Tom Ricketts wants to break even. Their payroll sits in the middle of the league every year. So he's making a lot of money on the Cubs alone. Tom Ricketts' Hickory Street Capital owns and operates the Wrigleyville Entertainment District, including Hotel Zachary, Gallagher Way, and the surrounding office and retail space. You're a fucking billionaire. You basically bought the Cubs so you could have and get hold of most of those businesses and office buildings and spaces in the Wrigleyville area surrounding Wrigley Field, and you keep that all separate from the Chicago Cubs, in my mind, that whole neighborhood and everything you bought up there that you control should absolutely be part of what you spend on the Cubs. And we're going to talk next week a little bit in depth on the whole possible lockout for next season and the salary cap that the owners are wanting to go after. But Tom Ricketts has duped us. He does not want to spend any money on the Cubs. They'll spend it sporadically on the wrong players. I'm not certain. I don't think any fans can see a clear future for the Chicago Cubs like we did in 2011, 12, 13, and 14 before they won. We could see a clear future there. They were spending the money. They were putting the team together. It was offense. It was defense. It was pitching. It was the whole package, providing some depth for future years. Theo Epstein promised us a dynasty that we never got. And now that Epstein's gone and Hoyer has taken over and gotten the extension, I wholeheartedly, absolutely believe 100% that Tom Ricketts does not care if the Cubs actually win another World Series. Publicly, he will tell you he will, and that the things that they're doing just aren't working out. Well, then find other guys who can do what you want to do and make it work out. There's plenty of small market teams who can put winners together and not have to spend a shit ton of money. But I guarantee you, everything they make from that ball club is going back into that ball club, and the Ricketts just aren't doing that, right? I don't know where the Cubs go from here. I don't know if I'm going to continue to follow this team as religiously as I do. I just can't take a lot of the crap that's going on by this current ownership and management, president of baseball operations. And that includes signing and getting and I'm going to apologize to you guys. Just before I started this podcast, the last year of David Ross, I was so pissed off at David Ross. The Cubs were so close. They had the talent. And I felt like David Ross, as a manager with no experience, was ruining this ball club. So they fired Ross to pick up Counsell. And I'll tell you this. Pat Murphy was the catalyst behind the Brewers' success while Craig Counsell was there. I mean, if you just do a quick comparison and you look at what they've done since they've been separated, the numbers might be similar, but Pat Murphy's won 2 divisions. Craig Counsell hasn't won any. So I think we got the wrong person from Milwaukee. Counsell's been a manager a lot longer, so he has those inflated statistics when he had Pat Murphy by his side as a bench coach. Right now in 2026, the Brewers are obviously leading the National League Central. In 2025, the Brewers won the National League Central. In 2024, the Brewers won the National League Central. So Pat Murphy's first year with the Brewers, Craig Counsell's first year with the Chicago Cubs. Pat Murphy, 93-69, first place. Craig Counsell, Chicago Cubs, 83-79 for third place, which is the exact same record they had the final year under David Ross. 2025, the Brewers, 97-65, first place. Cubs, 92-70, slight better record from Craig Counsell's first year for second place. So Pat Murphy's won the division the first 2 years. He was the manager of the Brewers, wins the National League Manager of the Year both of those years. Craig Counsell hasn't won since 2023. National League division winners 2023. Brewers win the National League. Craig Counsell's last year while he's working side by side with Pat Murphy. So conceivably, you could say as a coach / manager, Pat Murphy's won this division 4, 5, 6 years in a row, 2 on his own as manager, while Craig Counsell hasn't done any of that. Craig Counsell likes to manage by stats, especially with his pitching staff. He doesn't go with his gut. He doesn't look at the ball players to see how they're faring in warm-ups or how they've done the previous day or the last outing. He can't tell when a guy is struggling or doing really well. So I think with the team Jed Hoyer put on the field, it starts there. No excuses. The team has to produce. If they're not producing, it goes to the manager. If the manager can't get them to produce, he's usually fired. The Cubs aren't going to fire him because Jed Hoyer bet the bank on him by firing David Ross in the middle of a contract to pick up Craig Counsell. So we're going to be stuck with Craig Counsell's managerial decisions for who knows if they go through the lockout, if they even come back, right? Then it goes to Jed Hoyer. If he's not going to fire the manager because that's his guy, then he's got to put better people on the field. Some of these transactions and trades the Cubs have made in the last couple of days or weeks, they're picking up nobody with any kind of experience. Nobody has proven anything in Major League Baseball, but yet they keep making these stupid little ass trades and picking up guys. The whole Kevin Alcantara thing, Alcantara. I can't say that guy's name. I don't know why. He gets brought up to the majors. He barely plays, makes a few base running mistakes, then they get sent out. Justin Dean comes up. First day he's up, he gets in, hits a triple. He's a light hitting hitter. So they had a lot of high hopes for Alcantara. And he's probably going to be packaged in really soon in the next month here if the Cubs end up to be on the outside looking in. And Craig Counsell never really played him, but the first day Justin Dean's up and he's classified as a light hitting guy. Speed, good outfield presence, but he's just a singles guy. Probably uses his speed and gets on base, but you've given up. Last year, Matt Shaw was the heir apparent at third base. He was coming along at the end of the season. He was your guy. And then you go and sign Bregman. Matt Shaw's kind of an odd man out. There's a lot of things I see Counsell do here, Hoyer do here, Ricketts do here, that is just boggling my mind, and I don't know where we go as fans. But I'm not going to sit back and be like, I love them till the day I die, and I'll bleed Cubby Blue and this and that. They're the best team ever, rah, rah, rah. It's fucking bullshit. As a fan, that's a bullshit attitude to have. Because if you keep filling the stands at Wrigley Field and you keep putting money in Ricketts' pocket, he's going to have no incentive to do anything. Hell, my buddy Robert Soup Campbell, who's been on the show, was so adamant this offseason that they didn't spend any money and they weren't going to spend any money. And he said the team's probably for sale, but they're really not going to say anything because of the looming lockout for next season. But I really feel like they've made some low-key moves here. And I think a part of that was due to where they weren't filling the stands. I mean, hell, at the end of last season, hardly anyone was going to St. Louis games, right? And I think the owner was like, man, these people aren't coming to these games. You lose a lot more money when you don't fill the stands. And that prompts ownership and management to do something about it. And I think that's evaluating players a little bit better for the guys that you do sign and seeing who's a better fit for your team that's actually going to help lead you to that World Series victory. I've said it before, like I've said with the Bears. If Ben Johnson puts us in the playoffs every single year for like 10 years and we get close 3 or 4 times and maybe win one Super Bowl, a lot of fans will take that over one World Series in 108 years, and now it's been 10 years since you won again, and it's been probably 9 years since you got even close to the National League Championship Series. I don't think Craig Counsell is going to be the guy that's going to get us anywhere. I think Pat Murphy was the guy calling the shots and making sure that Craig Counsell put the right personnel on the field all the time as his bench coach. Pat Murphy's proven it to us where Craig Counsell's proven us the opposite way. You've got the Mets, 4-game series with the Mets. You got 3 games with the Brewers and 2 games with the Padres to round out June. That will put us into July 1st. 6-3 is the worst you can go, in my opinion, on this next trip. 4-3 on the road. You got to end up 4-3 on the road and then take those 2 games against the Padres, and you could end up a nice record for June and start July on a positive note. Anything less than that, if you end up on the next 9 games and you come back with a losing record, I really think that you're done for this season. I don't see you coming back. This team has not proven in any year under Craig Counsell. They tend to get cold and stay cold, and they don't ever get hot again to really put a dent in the standings and to kind of propel them into that top spot. So I think we've got, and we're seeing a lot of issues going on here with the Cubs. It starts with the guys on the field. It works its way all the way up to the top, to ownership. Um, that's it, folks. I'm done. My rant, it's over. This will be the last rant with the Cubs because I promise you, if they end up with a losing record to start out July, well, we're that much closer to training camp, which means we're closer to the NFL season kicking off. We've got a lot to talk about with the Bears, and there's a good chance by next episode, this show is going to transition into the NFL, the Chicago Bears, and stay that way for the near future, because if the owners lock the players out in MLB for next season, there's not going to be any baseball to talk about, because I'm not going to sit here and talk about the lockout all the time and what little bit of progress has been made here and there and the other, because the lockout, all it's going to do is benefit the owners. I see both sides of the situation. It's never going to allow ticket prices to come down. Ticket prices are set to where they are. So if the owners get what they want, so they don't have to spend a lot of money and pay players a lot of money, they are not going to lower ticket prices. They are not going to lower concession prices. So we are at a point now where average fans find it very difficult to go to games. They still do, because the stands are still filled most everywhere you see and watch baseball. But it's not going to help the fans out at all. And it shouldn't, because we don't play. But you would think and you would hope in a decent world that it would help the fans out. But we're still going to go to games. We're still going to pay the high ass prices for tickets, try to find good deals here and there. They're going to keep making their big time money to entertain us. And then we're just going to keep bitching about it. That's all I got for you this week, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Love to hear from you. Hell, even if it's negative. Well, maybe not. We'll see. Fuck it. Peace.